Indiana basketball is not on upset alert against South Carolina this weekend, right?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, thank you again to all of my everydayers, those of you that listen to us every day on your audio platforms or watch us every day on the YouTube channel. We really do appreciate it, and we are growing like crazy over here, so really do appreciate all of your support. We're going to make some picks around the Big Ten for college football this weekend because while Indiana may be off, still some really important games around the conference that we need to discuss. Plus, we're going to take a look at Indiana football, talking with Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football. We're going to have him in the last two segments, but want to start the show today with something I've started to see a little bit around the Indiana fan base, because are people starting to worry about South Carolina this weekend? Are we concerned that the Gamecocks, who lost to North Florida, are going to come to Assembly Hall and beat this Indiana team? Let's pump the brakes on this a little bit, okay? I like this South Carolina team. I think they're a very talented South Carolina team. I think they are still a dangerously good South Carolina team, but I don't think they're good enough to beat us, okay? This is a squad that's still being coached by Lamont Paris, so I think it's a solid head coach, and I think he has gotten South Carolina to be a respective program in the SEC. I think a competitive program in the SEC. I think it was South Carolina last year who, if you went to their place, you beat them. But if they went on the road, they were like the road warriors, man. They were a really good squad. I believe it was them last year. And so thankfully, we don't have to go there. And hopefully that's not the case this season, since they are coming to Assembly Hall. This is a South Carolina program that has 8 returning players from a year ago. They also have 2 transfer players from the SEC. One in Nick Pringle from Alabama, another from Missouri, and a couple of freshmen coming in as well. So a really balanced South Carolina team that's coming in here. And I mentioned, and you already know this, they lost to North Florida in the season opener, okay? This was a South Carolina team that was favored, obviously, against North Florida. They lose 74-71, but they have since turned it on. They beat South Carolina State 86-64. They beat Towson 80-54. So they've been able to do it defensively, right? They give up 74 to North Florida, then 64 and 54 respectfully in their last 2 games. So for Indiana, it's pretty simple. Just run your offense and do what you do in terms of getting it down low to Umar Ballo and Malik Renew. They don't have the size to compete with you in terms of a depth perspective. And then I think this is a perfect breakout opportunity for guys like Cannon Carlisle, Miles Rice, Trey Galloway, and we know that they're good and we know that they have it in there. I'm saying this is a game where you can really, really show up and show out and possibly be a game where the guards have to go win it for you. And while I think Indiana will most likely win this game, you should still be a little worried about it. As we're recording this podcast, I don't see a line anywhere, but according to ESPN, Indiana's got a 70% chance to win this game, according to their matchup predictor, whatever they want to use for that. So the Hoosiers are the favorite here, and we are supposed to win. But you've seen what college basketball has done so far this season. It's been insane so far, and nobody is safe. And I do want to show a little respect to that North Florida team, because not only did they beat South Carolina, they also beat Georgia Tech as well. So they've got a couple of big wins on their early resume, and South Carolina has bounced back quite nicely. Here's the thing for the Hoosiers, though, right? Here's the thing for us. We have not played in quite some time. That Eastern Illinois game was on last Sunday, right? That was almost a week in between from one game to the other. Do we have a slow start? Do we start out sloppy? Do we start out low energy like we did against Eastern Illinois, where we were down at the half? Remember, 37-36 was the final, or I guess the halftime score of that matchup. And then we used the second half and we turned it on late and pulled away for a 90-55 win. That won't work against a South Carolina team, against a program out of the SEC that still believes that they're an NCAA tournament team. And I'm curious on how they look in this game in particular, and I'll be able to kind of make a better judgment on whether they will make the tournament or not, which it'll just be a prediction. I'm no fortune teller here, but I am curious on how they play. And it seems to me that South Carolina has totally washed away the North Florida game, and they're just not all that concerned with it because they're going to come in here with Lamont Paris as their head coach, and they're going to believe they can win this basketball game. And guess what? Indiana has not shown us in just the first handful of games this year, in the first two games that we've played against SIUE and Southern Illinois, or Eastern Illinois, apologies, that we are just this world-beating, ungodly, crazy team that cannot be stopped. We haven't shown that at all this year. This is the chance to do that. Are we on upset alert and upset watch? I don't think so. If you play your game, you should be fine, especially on the defensive side of the floor. I just don't think they're going to be able to score on us if we lock down and do what we're supposed to do. But if you don't play with high energy, get the crowd into it, you're going to have to knock down some threes because South Carolina will run and gun. I promise you that. If you don't do those things, then yeah, you're probably on upset alert. But if you stroll in here, be focused, be ready, treat this like it's your Super Bowl, then you're going to be just fine because Indiana's got South Carolina. You have another cupcake with UNC Greensboro, and then you play Louisville in your feast week start of competition in the battle for Atlanta. So, and if you're Indiana and you're Mike Woodson, you've got to use this as a chance to get what could be a good win. Again, we'll have to see what South Carolina becomes, but use this as a chance to get a big win, get better, and keep staying undefeated with big games coming up in just a week or two, right? You have everything in front of you in terms of this early part of the season. Don't give yourself up. Don't slip up here. Don't let this be a non-conference loss because all I've done is talk about how weak this non-conference schedule is. I can't afford for Indiana to lose this game. So for the sake of me and for the sake of this show, just win the game, Woody. Just win the game, man. It ain't that hard. Go out, do your thing, and Indiana's going to be just fine. Well, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we're going to bring in Spencer McLaughlin. We're going to talk all things college football. Start with Indiana, move into our Big Ten picks around the conference because some really good games that lead into a huge weekend for college football. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off of gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with the promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience. And with gifting, the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.95. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners and our watchers get an extra $30 off with the promo code COLLEGE and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with the promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchases may apply. omahasteaks.com.
We'll do a G5 check-in because far be it from me to forget that the G5 team's making the playoff. I've been reminding everybody of that all the way back in March is when I began that on the show. And, well, you know, everyone's kind of starting to realize it now, and the G5 playoff push is heating up. We'll have Big Ten picks, but we'll start with Indiana. That's Jacob Goins of Locked On Indiana Hoosiers. So I want to start here, Jacob, but I want to get into the weeds on it. I don't think the committee would leave out an 11-1 Indiana. I don't think they would. The problem is I'm not saying that with 100% certainty. I'm saying it with like 85% certainty that a road loss against Ohio State next week and then a win against Purdue would not drop them out from being an at-large. But then Heather Dinich was talking on ESPN the other day, and you should not direct your ire at Heather because I think she was reporting what is just factually correct, which is you can't rule out a 9-3 SEC team based on what the committee's done so far. How important do you think the final two games and how they look and how the committee perceives Indiana are for the Hoosiers' playoff hopes?
Oh, I mean, it's everything is the way that I've described it. Is Indiana, look, you've done great things up to this point. You've beaten everybody on your schedule. All of them but one were by 14 or more points. And yeah, you struggled against Michigan, but that's the best defense you've played all season long. And there's nothing wrong with a gritty win in this year's college football. But that's all fine and dandy. You've got one game now that defines your season. If you want to claim that you are back, if you want to claim, well, that you're just here, right? And
why don't we go with here instead of back? Indiana hadn't had a 10-win season before this year. Let's go with here.
Okay. All right. I'll pump the brakes a little bit. If you want to claim that you are here, then you put everything into the Ohio State game, and you have an entire bye week to get ready for that Ohio State game. You're going to blow the doors off of Purdue. They're one of the worst teams I've seen in my lifetime. So Indiana has one game to define it all, right? It's like it's out of a movie, man. You've got, like, it's the Tim Tebow, right? We've got however many minutes for the rest of your life. Like, you've got one game that will put you in the college football playoff. I would like to agree with you that if Indiana cannot win that game, that we would still be a playoff team. But what does the committee decide to do? Do they decide to look at an SEC team and say, well, Georgia has beaten, Texas and only has losses to really good teams? Or do they look at just wins overall rather than who they're against? That's where Indiana's going to fall into a category that we just don't know what it is because it's a brand new year with a brand new 12-team college football playoff.
Yeah, and the unknown quality of this is why I think it's worth discussing, because just say the stuff out loud. 11-1 Indiana that doesn't have a Big Ten championship game appearance, let alone a win, against 10-2 Georgia. What if it comes down to those two resumes, Jacob? Georgia's played a tougher schedule, but they would have lost twice in this hypothetical, assuming they can beat Tennessee this weekend, which I think they will, whether Nico plays or not. But that's the concern I have. My takeaway so far from the first two rankings is it's the same inconsistent crap that the college football ranking people have given us for a very long time, where it's like, wait, you can put Texas ahead of SMU because they play in a tougher conference. That's fine. Can you explain to me why they are 11 spots different when SMU's lone loss is by 3 points to the current undefeated Big 12 favorite, BYU Cougars? Why is that the case?
Why is Penn State where they are?
That is a great question. Penn State is good, not great.
They've rewarded them for losing to Ohio State. They said, man, you guys played a really tough game, Penn State. Good for you. You're a top 5 team. Are you kidding me? Their best win against Illinois is going to end up 8-4 on the year. Like, that's not something that we need to reward them for. And look at Texas. Their best win is Vanderbilt, Spencer Vanderbilt. What are we doing, man? The College Football Playoff Committee, it's a joke. I've said it forever. You've got a room full of people who have college affiliations, by the way, who are literally working for universities that are trying to be represented in the College Football Playoff. They sit in a closed door, in a closet with each other. They sip. What Paul Feinbaum said the other day, they're sipping on champagne and ordering hors d'oeuvres, and they just do whatever they want, and they don't really have to explain themselves. It's a joke, and here we are. Makes for good content, I guess, but in terms of trying to figure out what the heck's going to happen, we have no idea.
Yeah, and you would hope that Indiana is given the same leeway as Penn State if they were to lose to Ohio State this week. But then
we know that's not true.
that's kind of my sense, is at the very least, I don't think they get rewarded in the same way that Penn State did. And I worry. Again, I want to make this very clear, Indiana should be into the playoff. They win 11 games. I think you win 11 games in any Power 4 conference, Big 12, ACC included in there, I think you should be into the college football playoff. 100%. I think we're seeing that 10-2 SEC should have plenty of value. It should not have the same attractive, oh my gosh, this team is so good quality to it that we would have thought before the season. I've watched the SEC all year. It's still a really good conference. It's still really deep. There are a bunch of really good teams. Don't sit there and tell me that's the same that it used to be, because it simply is not.
But what's so crazy is to watch and see the SEC bias that they received for so long. It's just awkwardly now with the Big Ten. I mean, look at the current rankings. 4 of the top 5 teams are out of our conference. And look, I love it. We're a top 5 team. You've got Penn State in there. You just heard my thoughts on that. Ohio State is still right there at 2, even though they lost in Oregon. So I don't know. I don't understand where this Big Ten bias has come from. I'm cool with it. I'm happy about it. Just seems a little fake to me. And I feel like they're going to pull the rug out from people like Indiana when this thing is all said and done.
It would cause an uproar, I think, even greater than what happened with Florida State last year, which was far more justifiable than leaving 11-1 Indiana out of the playoff. I don't think they do it, Jacob. I mean, Indiana's sitting there at number 5. If they go to Ohio State and lose by, let's say, 10 points, let's say the final score is 27-17, and Indiana is going to fall to where in the rankings exactly?
15, maybe? I don't know.
Because here's the conundrum. Can every 10-2 SEC team get into the college football playoff? Can they all make it? I don't think the answer is yes. You're going to have to do an actual resume comparison between those SEC teams and Indiana, who doesn't have a very strong Big Ten schedule. They play Ohio State, but Michigan's not as good as some people thought they'd be before the year. They don't play Oregon. They don't play Penn State. And they don't even play Iowa. So I just wonder if that comes back to bite them. I really hope not. I really, truly hope not. But the more I think about it, the more I say, I don't have a 100% confidence interval that the committee will do the right thing there.
They'll never do it, but I hope that next week in the college football playoff committee ranking selection show, the whole beauty pageant thing that they do on Tuesday nights, I hope that they come out and they just flat out say, Indiana, you beat Ohio State, you're in. If you lose, you're out. I mean, honestly, I don't want that much pressure on Indiana, because even if we lose, I still think we deserve it. But at least give us some sort of an answer and be like, here's what needs to happen for this team, or for Tennessee, or for Georgia, or for Bama, or for Penn State, or for anybody that's still in the balance of, hey, are we making the playoffs or not? Oregon, you're good, right? Teams like that are okay. But in terms of all the other teams that may or may not win their conference championship game, some sort of roadmap on how to get there, that'd be kind of nice.
Indiana doesn't play this week. A lot of other teams in the Big Ten do. Will we see chaos there? Is it like the ACC? It's going to be chaos or boredom? Well, how much chaos could we see? Oh, Jacob is ready. Jacob's ready. Big Ten picks coming up next.
Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That means if you would have put $5 on the Eagles last night, you would have won as they took down the Commanders in seemed like convincing fashion, huh? The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Let's pick every game in the Big Ten. Nebraska's got a new offensive coordinator. They're going to USC. On paper before the season, Jacob, I thought this would be a game between teams not pushing for the playoff or a conference championship, but that were striving to be in that clear second tier, top of the second tier of the Big Ten. Yeah, it hasn't gone that well. Nebraska's lost 3 games in a row. USC can't win a close game in the fourth quarter. Trojans are at home, favored by 8.5 points. Dana Holgerson is the offensive coordinator for Nebraska. Is that fixing everything for Matt Rule here? I don't think I trust that transition to take over right away. I do think 8.5 is too many, according to our friends at FanDuel. I'll take USC 23-20 over Nebraska here.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it all year long, especially in our Big Ten squad shows where, man, in this league, heck, in this year of college football, being favored by a touchdown or more against a conference opponent just seems like a lot, especially with 2 teams that are just not good. Nebraska, USC, I mean, they're fighting to be 500 on either side of this thing. I will take USC to win, but I'm with you. I think it's close. Give me something ugly like 21-20. I mean, I'll take the Trojans to win at home, but I'm not taking anybody by a touchdown right now.
Let's go to the game at Wrigley Field. And this is Ohio State going to Northwestern. Stadium is still under construction. I'm sure it'll be beautiful, but this is being played in a baseball stadium. I think that's weird, which is why this game will have a weird feel to it. That Northwestern defense has its moments. That Northwestern offense, it really does not. It really did. And against this Ohio State defense that I think is dialed in right now, I don't think they're getting to double digits, but I don't know if Ohio State is going to cover that big old fat number in there. I think the Buckeyes win 27-6. They handle Northwestern.
Yeah, this being played at Wrigley Field, lots of good social media videos. They've got the names written on the old time scoreboard and the signs outside. I mean, it's a really, really cool event happening this weekend at Wrigley. Is Ohio State going to get caught looking ahead, Spencer? Are they worried about the Hoosiers next week? No, they're fine. They're going to take care of Northwestern. As good as their defense has been, you mentioned it, man. Their offense is brutal to watch. It should be illegal to have to watch them play on television. I'm taking Ohio State big. Give me the Buckeyes 40-10. They're going to roll against Northwestern.
Well, the good news is even though that's big noon kickoff, isn't it? Yeah.
It's 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern, but it's on the Big Ten Network. So,
okay, so not the big noon kickoff, but still right. A noon kickoff that's causing some gripes in certain circles. Why are we always playing early? I don't know. You're Ohio State, and doesn't matter who you're playing. Television networks want to put you on TV in a certain window because a lot of people will watch. But how about the Friday night game? This is an interesting one because UCLA, inexplicably, in my view, is playing good football right now. Ethan Garbers is settled in. The defense is playing well. Washington's too tough of a team to beat at home. Did you see Washington's helmets, Jacob?
No.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Are they good or bad?
They are so good. They are so thoroughly good.
From you, who is a neutral college football.
Yes, I am indeed. Neutral arbiter of college football, completely unbiased in all takes forever and always. Matte black helmets. Crispy. Purple W on the side with a gold face mask. It's so good. It's so thorough. I can't pick against those helmets, man. I really can't. Those might be my favorite helmets in college football this weekend.
I'm going to look them up as soon as we're done, but I'm still not picking UCLA. Washington at home in Seattle, man. It's just weird things happen on a Friday night too. Yeah, I'll take Washington here. Are we a fan of Friday night Big Ten football, Spencer? How are we feeling about? I mean, we got games nowadays on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Well,
Thursday.
I don't think there's been a truly great game yet. This one I think will be competitive. I've got Washington winning 24-20. They haven't lost at Husky Stadium yet this year. Michigan came close, but ultimately came up short. I think UCLA's run comes to a close here, and they're fighting for bowl eligibility down the stretch with USC and Fresno State left on the schedule. But this is the last time Washington will play at home. They've got a bye. Then they travel to Eugene to play Oregon in a couple weeks. So I think Washington gets it done. But speaking of a game that has kind of a Friday night feel in that it's college football, it's interesting, you will watch, but maybe doesn't have the biggest stakes in the world. Illinois against Michigan State. I've got the Illini 24-17 here. I like the job that Jonathan Smith has done, but this Illinois team, you said it, Jacob, they're going to finish the year 8-4. I think this is one of those wins. They are at home. I like the Illini. Don't love them. Don't hate them. I like them. They're solid. I'll take the home team here by a touchdown.
Solid. That's the word you use. They're solid. They're a team that you don't necessarily want to play, but again, it's going to go down as the best win for Penn State, but nobody's going to give you credit for beating this Illinois team, but you'll get laughed at if you do not beat them, right? It's just one of those games. It's a lose-lose situation. Michigan State could use this type of a win, but I just don't think they get it. It won't be high scoring, but I do think it'll be a good game. Give me Illinois 27-23. I'll take Illinois to win. What is the line? Still 3-4 points as of right now?
I believe it is 4.5. I had them winning and covering, so I didn't.
Man, I'm on that line. You know what? I'll take Illinois to somehow cover that.
2.5. No, it's just 2.5. Just 2.5.
We're good. Yeah, I got Illinois to cover that. Not by much, but they will.
How about Penn State going to Purdue? Answer me this. Who's more likely to be on upset alert this week? Ohio State, neutral site against Northwestern, or Penn State at Purdue? Tough times for Ryan Walters. Does he survive this upcoming offseason? I don't know, because having a bad record that's worse than year one is one thing, but it looking like this is another. I've got Penn State 34-10 at Purdue.
In terms of the upset alert question, I want to say Ohio State's on a bigger upset alert because I trust Northwestern more.
I agree.
But in terms of Ohio State or Penn State and a game that you would think they could lose, I would pick James Franklin and Penn State. So I don't know. I'll say Ohio State because Purdue's so bad, man. They're so bad. And look, I've had to hedge my bet.
The joy that exuberates from your face when you say that.
I have said it so many times, but I've also had to hedge my bet because that would be the most devastating thing in the world if Indiana, it win or lose to Ohio State. If you lose to Purdue, to get back to that conversation, if you lose to Ohio State and Purdue, we're done. Don't put us in the playoff. Don't even put us in a bowl game, man. The season would be a failure at that point. But no, I think Penn State will roll. I think they'll beat Purdue. Won't be pretty because it's Penn State football. It ain't pretty. But yeah, I'll take something, 35-3.
3 is entirely possible, even at home. I think that's a garbage time touchdown that I gave Purdue in my score prediction there. But in reality, though, the top 5 team most likely to lose this week in the Big Ten would be Oregon. Not just because it's the smallest point spread, but because they've got the toughest game. Wisconsin on the road by 14.5. I don't know how easy this is for Oregon. I don't know what it looks like, whether they're air-focused or run-focused against a Wisconsin defense that's been great against the pass, but has struggled defending the run, for an Oregon offense that's been solid but not elite running the football, really good throwing, but they don't have Tez Johnson. A lot of interesting factors here, but I think Oregon just finds a way to overwhelm Wisconsin at the end of it, and they cover 34-17. I'll swallow 14.5, even on the road.
Talk about a game that preseason, just with the logos, looked really, really good. And a game that I don't know how many times these teams have matched up historically. I'm going to guess not very many. And so
a couple of Rose Bowls in the last 15 years, New Year's Day 2012, New Year's Day 2020.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot about the 2020 New Year's Day. And so, look, this is a huge brand game. Oregon, Wisconsin at night in Madison. What a huge opportunity this would have been for the Badgers if they didn't have injury problems, if they didn't have a quarterback issue, and the year just has not gone their way. I'll take Oregon to win, but I hate 14 points being favored on the road again at night in Madison. Something smells wrong, man. And we always say if it smells like cologne, you just leave it alone. I ain't touching the game. I think Oregon will win, but they're going to have to earn it.
Finally, the sickos game of the week in the Big Ten. Rutgers at Maryland. Oh, a thumbs down from Jacob Goins of Locked On Hoosiers, but I flipped a coin. I'm not even kidding. I flipped a coin. This game can go either way. I've seen both teams look decent. I've seen both teams look horrible. Rutgers, 21-20. 1-point game. It's like that. This could be a 2-point conversion for the win that goes awry. Missed field goal, something crazy. That's just what it feels like here.
You know what? Just for the sake of the show and just for fun, you picked, what'd you have? You had
I had Rutgers 21-20.
Yeah, I'll take Maryland going away. I'll take Maryland in a rout. Why? I have no reason whatsoever. They're favored by 5, so sure, why not? Maryland covers at home.
Jacob Goins, Locked On Hoosiers. Jacob, enjoyed as always, my man.
Thank you, brother.